The text message came through at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling me out of the first decent sleep I'd had in weeks. "Hey sis. Need you to pick up a 70-inch Samsung for my housewarming. The QLED one. About $3,000. You can afford it." I stared at the screen waiting for the punchline. For the "just kidding" that never came. Instead, another message popped up. "Mom said you're doing well with your little computer thing. Time to give back to family. I'll text you the model number." My brother Brandon had always been like this. Entitled and loud. The kind of guy who believed the world owed him something just for existing. But this was a new level of audacity. And before I tell you exactly how I made him regret ever sending that text, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. I want to know who's part of our community, fighting back against entitled family members who think they can use you like an ATM. Most people would have just said no and moved on. But you don't understand my family. In the Morrison household, saying no wasn't just rude. It was treason. I grew up in a split-level ranch in Akron, Ohio, the kind of house that looked okay from the street but had cracks in the foundation nobody wanted to talk about. My parents, Susan and Frank, had this unspoken rule. Brandon was the golden child and I was the support system. He got the attention, the praise, the investment. I got the lectures about being grateful and not rocking the boat. When Brandon wanted guitar lessons in middle school, they bought him a $1,200 Fender and paid for private coaching twice a week. When I asked for a $40 graphing calculator for my AP calculus class, my mom sighed and said, "Can't you just borrow one from school?" When Brandon got a DUI at 19, my dad called it a learning experience and paid the $8,000 in legal fees without blinking. When I got a scholarship to Ohio State, my mom's exact words were, "Well, at least we won't have to pay for you." The pattern was clear. Brandon was the investment. I was the afterthought. So I stopped asking for anything. I worked through college, took out loans, graduated with a degree in computer science and started doing contract work for small businesses. Website design, database management, basic IT consulting. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills. My parents barely noticed. To them, I was still just doing that computer stuff. Meanwhile, Brandon bounced from job to job, bartending, selling gym memberships, managing a vape shop, always talking about his next big opportunity, always needing just a little help to get there. And our parents always gave it to him. By the time I was 28, I'd moved into a quiet one-bedroom apartment in Columbus and built a decent freelance business. I specialized in data migration for mid-sized companies, the boring technical work nobody wanted to do but everybody needed. It wasn't sexy, but I was good at it. Really good. I started getting referrals. One client led to another, then another. Before long, I wasn't just doing freelance gigs. I was consulting for firms that managed logistics for Fortune 500 companies. My rate went from $50 an hour to $200. Then $500. Then I stopped charging hourly and started doing project-based contracts. I didn't tell my family. Why would I? They'd never cared before. But then my mom saw me pull up to Thanksgiving dinner in a new Toyota. Not even a fancy one, just a reliable Camry to replace the beat-up Honda that had finally given up. "Business must be good," she said, not quite a question, not quite a compliment. "It's fine," I said, keeping my voice neutral. That's when the request started. Small at first. "Can you lend Brandon $200 for his security deposit?" Then, "Can you cover mom's car insurance this month?" Then, "Brandon needs a co-signer for an apartment lease." I said yes every time. Not because I wanted to, because saying no meant being selfish. And in our family, I wasn't allowed to be selfish. Brandon, meanwhile, had moved back home after his third failed roommate situation. He was 32 years old, sleeping in his childhood bedroom, working part-time at a sporting goods store, and spending his evenings posting motivational quotes on Instagram about the grind. And then he got a girlfriend. Her name was Ashley. She was 24, worked at a nail salon, and had very strong opinions about what kind of life she deserved. Within 3 months, she and Brandon were talking about moving in together. Within 4 months, they'd found a place. A 2-bedroom townhouse with granite countertops and a view of a retention pond. The housewarming party was scheduled for a Saturday in early June. My mom called me 2 weeks before to make sure I was coming. "Brandon's so excited," she gushed. "He's really turning his life around. Ashley's been such a good influence." I didn't mention that Ashley had already asked me via Brandon to contribute $500 toward their furniture fund. I'd sent the money without comment. Then came the text about the TV. I read it 3 times, my thumb hovering over the reply box. $3,000 for a TV. Not a request. Not a, hey, would you be able to help? Just an expectation, delivered with the casual confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. I thought about ignoring it, but my mom texted me an hour later. Brandon mentioned the TV. That's so generous of you. You're such a good sister. I hadn't agreed to anything, but in their minds it was already decided. The next morning I called my mom. About the TV, I started, keeping my tone even. I don't think I can do that. There was a pause. Not a thoughtful pause. A loaded one. What do you mean? Her voice had that edge to it, the one that meant I was about to be lectured. I mean, it's a lot of money, Mom. I have my own expenses. Honey, Brandon's your brother. He's starting a new chapter. Don't you want to support him? I already gave him $500 for furniture. And that was wonderful. But this is different. This is a big moment for him. He's really making something of himself. I wanted to laugh. Brandon was making something of himself? He'd been making something of himself for 15 years, funded entirely by other people. Mom, I can't afford a $3,000 TV. That was a lie. I could afford it easily. But that wasn't the point. Of course you can, she said, her voice hardening. You're doing well. You drive a new car. You have that nice apartment. Brandon's been struggling. He needs family right now. He's not struggling, I said quietly. He's choosing not to work full-time. That's different. The silence on the other end was sharp enough to cut. I can't believe you're being like this, she said finally. After everything we've done for you. And there was the trump card. The thing they always said when they wanted me to fall in line. I closed my eyes. Took a breath. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up before she could say anything else. I didn't think about it. I stewed in it. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine and my laptop open in front of me, staring at my bank account. The number sitting there was absurd. Not millionaire money, but more than most people my age had. More than my parents knew. More than Brandon could even imagine. I just closed a 6-month contract with a logistics company that netted me $240,000. Before that, I'd done a database overhaul for a healthcare network that paid $180,000. I had another contract starting in 2 weeks, worth $150,000. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. Very comfortable. And I'd done it all myself. No handouts. No co-signers or guilt trips about family obligations. Brandon, meanwhile, had spent the last decade bouncing between low-effort jobs, living rent-free, and borrowing money he never paid back. And now he wanted me to buy him a $3,000 TV. The rage that bubbled up in me wasn't hot. It was cold. Methodical. The kind of anger that doesn't scream, it calculates. I opened a new browser tab and started searching. Not for TVs. For something better. By midnight I had a plan. The housewarming party was exactly what I expected. Cheap beer in a cooler, a folding table covered in Costco appetizers, and Brandon holding court in the middle of the living room, talking about his vision for the space. Ashley clung to his arm, nodding along, occasionally interjecting with comments about throw pillows and accent walls. I arrived with a card. Just a card. No gift bag or TV. Brandon saw me walk in and his face lit up. Not because he was happy to see me. Because he thought I'd brought his present. Sis. He jogged over, arms wide. You made it. Wouldn't miss it, I said, handing him the card. He looked down at it, then back at me. Where's the TV? I smiled. Open the card. He tore into it like a kid on Christmas, clearly expecting a Best Buy gift card or maybe a receipt showing the TV had been delivered. Instead, he found a single sheet of paper. Printed on it was a screenshot of a bank transfer. $3,000. Sent to the Akron Community Shelter. In his name. Brandon stared at it, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. What is this? I thought about what you said, I replied, loud enough for the people nearby to hear. About how I should give back to my family. And you're right. Family's important. So I made a donation in your name to help people who actually need it. His face went red. Are you serious right now? Completely. You're always talking about giving back and supporting the community. I figured this was a great way to honor that. Ashley stepped forward, her smile frozen. That's really sweet, but Brandon was kind of expecting a $3,000 TV? I finished. Yeah, I know. But see, here's the thing. Brandon's 32. He has a job. If he wants a TV, he can buy one himself. The room had gone quiet. People were watching now, phones probably already out. Brandon's jaw tightened. You're unbelievable. Am I? I kept my voice light, pleasant. Because last I checked, I didn't owe you a TV. Or $500 for furniture. Or anything really. We're family, he hissed. Exactly. And families support each other. So here's my support. A donation to people who are actually struggling. Not people who choose to work 20 hours a week and expect everyone else to subsidize their lifestyle. His face went from red to purple. Get out. Gladly. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Brandon, next time you want something expensive, maybe try asking instead of demanding. People respond better to respect. I walked out to a mix of stunned silence and a few barely suppressed laughs. My phone started blowing up before I even got to my car. My mom, my dad, Brandon, Ashley, all of them furious. I didn't respond. I just drove home, poured another glass of wine, and let the satisfaction settle in. But I wasn't done yet. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. My mom called me 6 times in 2 hours, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails about how I'd humiliated Brandon and ruined his special day. My dad sent a curt text. This is not how family behaves. Brandon posted a vague status on Facebook about fake people and blood being thicker than water, which got a bunch of supportive comments from people who had no idea what actually happened. Ashley posted a photo of their empty living room wall with the caption, "Guess some people only care about themselves." I let it all roll over me. I'd expected this. The Morrison family playbook was predictable. When someone broke the script, everyone circled the wagons around the golden child. What I didn't expect was the text from my cousin Derek. Dude. That was savage. Derek had always been the quiet observer at family gatherings, the one who saw through Brandon's nonsense but never said anything. His message made me smile. Then another text came through. This one from my aunt, Helen. I heard what happened. Good for you. Someone needed to say it. Then another. And another. Turns out, a lot of people in our extended family had been watching Brandon coast for years, funded by my parents' denial and my silent compliance. And they were tired of it too. By Monday, the family group chat was a war zone. My mom was defending Brandon, my dad was staying silent, and half the relatives were taking sides. I muted it and went back to work. 2 days later, my mom showed up at my apartment. I opened the door to find her standing there, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. We need to talk, she said. I stepped aside and let her in. She didn't sit. Just stood in the middle of my living room, looking around like she was cataloging everything. Nice place, she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. Thanks. Must be expensive. It's fine. She turned to face me. You embarrassed your brother. He embarrassed himself. He asked for one thing and you turned it into a spectacle. He didn't ask, Mom. He demanded. There's a difference. Her jaw tightened. He's your brother. And I'm his sister. Not his atom. You have the money. There was the core of it. Not whether I should help but whether I could. In their minds, having money meant I was obligated to share it. I do have money, I said slowly. Money I earned. By myself. Without anyone's help. We helped you, she shot back. We raised you. We gave you a home. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You gave me the bare minimum, Mom. You paid for Brandon's everything and told me to be grateful for scraps. That's not fair. Isn't it? When he wanted guitar lessons, you bought him a $1,200 guitar. When I asked for a calculator, you told me to borrow one. When he got a DUI, Dad paid $8,000 in legal fees. When I got a scholarship, you said at least you wouldn't have to pay for me. Her face flushed. You're twisting things. I'm stating facts. We stood there in silence, the weight of 30 years sitting between us. He's struggling, she said finally, her voice softer. No, he's not. He's lazy. And you've enabled it his entire life. We're his parents. We're supposed to support him. You're my parents too. But you only support me when it's convenient. She looked away. This isn't about you. It's always been about me, Mom. It's always been about me shrinking myself so Brandon could feel big. Well, I'm done. She left without another word. The next week was quiet. No calls, no texts, no drama. Then on Friday I got a message from Brandon. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time before replying. Sure. We met at a coffee shop near his place. He looked tired, older somehow, like the weight of the last week had finally caught up to him. He ordered a black coffee. I got a lot. We sat in silence for a minute before he spoke. I was out of line, he said. I waited. I don't know. I thought you'd help. You always help. Because I always said yes. He nodded. Yeah. More silence. Do you know how much I make? I asked. He shrugged. I don't know. Decent money, I guess. I pulled out my phone and opened my bank app. Turned the screen toward him. His eyes widened. He trailed off. That's what I've built. By myself. While you were bouncing between jobs and living at home. He looked away. I didn't know. Because I didn't tell you. Because every time I achieved something it got ignored. Or worse, it got turned into a reason I should give more. He rubbed his face. I'm sorry. For what? For all of it. For expecting you to pay for things. For not seeing how hard you've worked. I took a sip of my latte. Do you know what the worst part is? He shook his head. It's not the money. It's that you never once asked me how I was doing. You never asked about my work, my life, anything. You just saw me as someone who could give you things. His jaw tightened. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about you needing something? He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. That's what I thought, I said. We sat there for another minute before he stood up. I'll figure out the TV thing on my own, he said quietly. Good. He left. I stayed finishing my latte and watching people walk by outside. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. But I also felt free. 3 months later I got another text from Brandon. This time it was different. Hey, I know things have been weird. But I wanted you to know I got promoted at work. Full-time now. Benefits and everything. Thought you'd want to hear. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied. That's great. Proud of you. He sent back a thumbs up. It wasn't much. But it was a start. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about refusing to let them destroy you. It's about setting boundaries and holding them even when it costs you. Even when your family calls you selfish. Even when it feels like you're the villain in their story. Because here's the truth they don't tell you. You're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Not even family. Especially not family who only sees you as fuel. So if you've ever been the giver in a family of takers, if you've ever been the one expected to shrink so someone else could shine, I want you to hear this. You don't owe them your silence. You don't owe them your compliance. And you definitely don't owe them a $3,000 TV. Set the boundary. Walk away if you have to. And let them figure out how to stand on their own. Because the most powerful thing you can do isn't revenge. It's refusing to play the game. Drop a comment if this story hit home for you. Let me know if you've ever had to set a boundary with entitled family members. And if you're struggling with it right now, know that you're not alone. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.